Yeah, well, I looked at other programs and even some programs that offered me full tuition scholarships. But I was really, I had worked for 20 years at that point, and I was really focused on finding a program that would support my career and my personal aspirations. And I'd had plenty of on-the-job experience, as I mentioned, 20 years is a long time to be working. And that's also an interesting time to choose to return for your master's work. So I was really pretty thoughtful in where I wanted to go. And I realized, I think, as I reflected on what I was missing from my background, especially as someone who grew up in a military family who moved very frequently. So I had lots of disruptions in my education and my curriculum, because during those moves, you don't really have continuity, between educational programs and in quality either. And so what I was missing was really an understanding of foundational theory and research around, best practices in management. And I felt, as I looked at the programs that the LSE EGMiM offered, that in spades. And of course, I also considered the reputation of the school. That was important to me, and the network that I could build there. But the research-based teaching was really a differentiating factor for me. Yeah, I mean, I use it every day in everything that I do, in operating roles, in my roles on boards as a board director, and in my role as a general advisor as well. I would say, in short, what I gained at GMIM was not just the ability to be a better operator. I think I learned a lot of that, on the fly and through practice. But what I really gained at GMIM was, it just enabled me to be more of an original thinker and to learn and innovate in a better and I would say even a faster way. I mean, hopefully everybody realizes now that diversity of thought, experience, and background is essential in the globally interconnected world in which we live and work. And, the LSE GMIM really ensures that learning incorporates this diversity that is absolutely essential. Regarding the networks, I'll just talk to my personal experience. More than 10 years after we completed our course, our class remains connected. Former classmates, regularly visit and talk to each other and seek each other out to get advice, both on a personal and a professional level. And, something that was pivotal in my own experience, specifically, a close friend of mine from the course, Matt, introduced me to someone who introduced me to someone at a very well-regarded private equity firm where I later wound up working. And so, for me, it's a very linear path to a very important career opportunity that I had that came directly from being in the LSE program. I mean, I had traveled quite a bit internationally for work before I went to this course. Again, I had a 20-year career at the time that I went back to school for my master's degree. And so I lived abroad. I was born abroad, and then I had worked abroad and lived in London for a 4-year period, working for a major investment bank. And so, my view is that the international modules at the LSE, are a real differentiator for the program. It's not every executive master's program does this, and it's I just feel like in today's day and age, you can't operate without this kind of an understanding that you can get from a module like this internationally, or two modules internationally. And I think if I talk about why that's important, besides the interconnectivity that we have with each other today. We are a globally connected world. We have to understand, differences and similarities and how we can work together well. And then, often I believe that despite our best efforts, we find ourselves in comfort zones based on, the people that are surrounding us and where we spend most of our time. And so we sometimes feel like we know best. We become a little overly confident. And in business, I'm always asking myself and others, what would the outside in perspective be? And the international modules help give us that outside in perspective. They remind us in an experiential way that we should be thinking about a diverse range of considerations, including those that are completely unfamiliar to us when we make important choices. And so that's my thinking on the international modules. Um, you know, I mean, I deliberated over the same thing. I think at the point at which, at point in time at which I went back to get my master's degree, I felt like it didn't matter whether it was a master's degree. It didn't matter whether I had the MBA or the GMIM. Uh, and I think you have to really consider what you want to do and what the path of prior individuals was in getting to the place that you want to be. And if there are cases probably where I think it really matters to have the MBA. In my case, I needed to pick the course that was going to be best for me and enable me to do my best work. I'd had lots of case study methodologies and, taken other programs at other US institutions that used, case study and less of a research method. The GMIM used both. And I felt that that was what I needed. So, I would say as people are deliberating, they really need to think about what path, where they want to end up. What's their destination? Again, this is a sort of a strategic way of thinking about it, but what's the clearest path to that destination? And do you need, one versus the other? In my case, I very clearly needed this program more than I would have benefited, I believe, from a different program that was, from an MBA program. I really wish that I had, so I hadn't been in a program for a long time that required a lot of writing of original research. And I think I would have, these days it's really easy to come up to speed on what that takes and how to do that well. I had to sort of learn that on the fly as I was getting assigned, as we were getting assignments. I would have done my homework on that because it would have felt a little less daunting for me. It's really not, first of all, the process I think is incredibly valuable. It was very valuable for me. But having not done it for a while, written original research, I think I was more intimidated by it than I needed to be. So I would have thought about it that way. I would say just be in the moment. I think I'm very focused on achieving things and getting things done to the best of my ability. I would say spend as much time thinking about the networks and the connections you're making and what you can do for those people, how you can help them, as much as you think about the assignments and how things can help you. I think life is long in these personal and professional relationships, or hopefully it's long. And, what you put out there by living in the moment, doing a lot of listening and learning from, individuals and their very different experiences. I think just that investment pays off in spades. And that would be my one piece of advice.